When it comes to the issues of development and conflict, at the center of it mainly is the issue of inclusion or exclusion of societies. If communities or societies feel they are left out of the development process, they become agitated. They start asking questions as to what is it that is there for us, and what can we do to ensure that we make the authorities or those that are involved in development activities aware of the needs that they have. And most of the time what tends to happen is, because these cries that are coming from the citizens or communities are not heard well in time. And what then happens as we go on is that there is some violence that happens within communities as a way of attracting the attention, which is lacking in the first case. So we need to look at development in a continuum. We need to look at how we are going to be responding to issues of violence or conflict as a way of actually addressing the long-standing issues of needs in the communities that we operate in. So that is one of the issues that we need to focus on. Now, so what we do at the African Development Bank is our focus is on linking development to issues that drive fragility, to issues that drive conflict. When we identify these and we apply what is referred to as the fragility lens, what it does help us in doing is we, through applying the fragility lens, are able to identify the areas where we need to intervene. We are able to identify the issues that are important to the communities and the citizens that we serve. We are also able to identify what areas we can cooperate with other partners, as well as the governments, which are in the first case have the first responsibility to provide for their citizens. So we then identify all these areas, and once we do so, we then move into designing the projects that are going to address the issues of fragility that we are focusing on. Now, once we do so, we also focus on issues. How do we then ensure that there is dialogue that is happening between the communities, within the communities, and between the communities, as well as between the communities and the governments? Once we have supported that particular process, we are able to get to a position whereby what we are doing is owned at the community level, it is owned at the government level, and we have promoted the interaction between the two. That way we build trust between the communities and their governments. We build trust between the partners, external partners, and the communities, as well as the external partners and the governments, which are very key in the process of addressing these issues of fragility. So as we do so, we then are working through the whole array of issues that are important in as far as addressing fragility is concerned. So what is it that we think is key in terms of strategies for addressing these development needs and link them to the issues of conflict? We know that violent conflict is at the other end of conflict, because conflict is going to be there always. But it is going to be the issues of how do we develop the capacity of the institutions that are supposed to be dealing with violence or conflict to be able to deal with it before it becomes violent. Now, this is a very important aspect, because this is where development becomes a central part. This is where dialogue becomes a central part. And we take all this, our development work as an institution, our mandate is to ensure that we work towards reducing poverty. And we do so by way of implementing projects that are supposed to bring an improvement in the lives of the communities that we serve. That way, we hope we will be able to address some of the needs that normally would have otherwise driven conflict within the societies. And then the other level that we work on is how do we ensure that at the institutional level, we develop the capacity of these institutions to be able to respond. Because in most of the cases in our countries, the institutions lack the capacity to be able to deliver the services that are needed in their communities. So we work also on issues of governance. In particular, our focus is not political governance, but we focus on the economic governance issues. That way we are looking at how can governments make sure that they manage their resources well, they are allocating their resources to the most needy communities, they are not excluding their communities from benefiting from the development process that is happening. We must admit that Africa has come a long way. There has been progress on the economic front. There has been high growth rates, particularly before the financial crisis. Yet what we also observed is the rate of the fall or the decline in poverty was not commensurate with the kind of growth that we were observing at the economic level. So there was feeling of exclusion within communities, within societies, and this is one of the areas that we are interested in dealing with at the government level in terms of addressing the capacity to ensure that there's inclusive development.